Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session. So today we will see how to master the quality assurance in Jira using a solution such as Xray. Before starting, just let me introduce myself. I'm Alessandro Palmihul. I'm working as a sales engineer here in Xray. I work for almost 2 years now in Xray. I'm currently based in Bolzano, North Italy, and I dedicated my career to work as a sales engineer, mainly with a focus on the SaaS project. So, for today, the agenda, we will start from a quick introduction, what Xray actually is and what Xray can help us with. And then immediately dive into the test case world. So we will see how to specify the test cases using Xray, how to keep them organized within the environment, and of course, how to execute them. We will complete the presentation talking about reportings and gadgets. So let's start with the big question. What is Xray? Well, Xray is a test management application that has been specifically designed for Jira. And we do provide both data center and cloud deployment topology. With Xray, you and the rest of your team will be able to manage both automated and manual tests. What we mean by manage? We mean being able to specify these test cases, being able to keep them organized within the environment, and of course, to execute them. So while the execution of manual tests can be performed directly within Xray, the automated ones will require the support of an external framework. External framework that, of course, has to be integrated with our platform. And you will have two options to integrate the framework or the frameworks. So option one is to use one of our native plugins that we do already provide for some of the most popular CI/CD tools. But as option two, you always have the possibility to rely on the REST API or GraphQL libraries. Well, actually, REST API and GraphQL library is available for the cloud solution, while for the data center solution is only REST API. So this is one of the differences in terms of integration. Xray basically enables some specific features directly within your Jira environment. So you will be able to use these features to manage the test case directly within your cloud or data center Jira environment. So Xray has to be seen as a plugin, has to be seen something that you enable directly within your environment, and it's not a standalone solution. So today, if we take into consideration a generic QA workflow that has been divided into 4 main steps: write, organize, plan, execute, we will see how for each of these steps, Xray will provide us the right Xray issue types. I'm talking about test case and precondition for writing purposes. I'm talking about test set and test repository to support us in the organization of our environment. Planning, test plan for the planning aspect, and the test execution to complete the workflow. If we take into consideration the Xray issue types right now displayed on the screen, you can directly manage them, all of them, except for test repository and test execution, all of them as Jira issues, because they are Jira issues. This is a key element of our solution. They are basically special Jira issues that enables you to work with additional sections or additional features for the test case management. So this is really, really important. Now, currently within your environment, you are able to create stories. But once Xray is enabled, a story can become an element to provide context to your test cases. And you will be able to link as many test cases to a story as you need. There is no limitation on the number. And more specifically, you will be able to work with 3 different typologies of test cases. I'm talking about manual test case, the first typology, and then 2 typologies that are under the category of automation. I'm talking about BDD, so the cucumber typology, and generic, that is the unstructured typology. These 3 are the categories, their typologies, better to say, of test cases that you will be able to work with within Xray. Now, the image is not the biggest ever, but as we can see, within a test case that is a special Jira issue, you will have an additional section here that is called test details. On the top, you will have some relevant tabs, such as precondition, where you will be able to check if there are any preconditions that have been linked to this test case, or you can also create new ones. You will be able to double check if the test case is part of any test set or test plan. And I'm going to be a bit more specific about these 2 elements in the next section of the presentation. And of course, to double check all the executions that have been previously performed on this particular test case. Now, we are within a manual test case right now. So what we have to expect here is the possibility to create, configure, or import manual steps. So here is where you create, edit, where you specify the elements of a manual typology in terms of test case. From a user experience point of view, the BDD, the cucumber typology, is exactly the same because we have the same tabs on top of the section. What is going to change is that we do no longer have access to the manual steps, but we have access to the scenario field, where you will be requested to insert the relevant information for your test. Last but not least, the generic typology. This time, you will have access to a definition field that is created on the framework level and is used by the system to import correctly the test executions results, as we will see also later in the next section. So one more time, these 3 typologies are the typologies of test cases that you will be able to work with within Xray. Now that we know how to specify the test cases, it's important to understand what are the tools that can support us in the organization of the environment. Because we can have thousands, hundreds of thousands of test cases. So it's important to understand what are these tools that support us in the organization. So first of all, Xray has a 3-structure way to organize tests that is called the test repository. And in addition to this, you also have test sets, where a test set, by definition, let's say, can be seen as a collection of tests that often contains detailed instruction or goals, as well as information on the configuration used to test. So as we can see from here, the test repository is a feature that has been divided into 2 main areas. In the left area, we will have a default folder, test repository, to which we will be able to add as many subfolders as we need. While in the right area, here, we have the full list of the test cases included. Now, since this list can be really big, we have some features that will allow us to have an efficient research within this list. I'm talking about the search field or the filters, where we have basic filters based on parameters or advanced filters based on JQL. Yes, JQL is inherited by Jira because a test case is a special Jira issue. That means that you can use JQL to filter the test cases. A test set is a special Jira issue. So it's a Jira issue with an additional specific section that is called tests. So what you should expect is this section with the list of the test cases included. And a test case can be part of multiple test sets at the same time. And also, of course, you will be able to edit and add additional test cases or remove any if you don't need anymore. So these 2 tools that, first of all, are not mandatory, so you don't have to feel forced to use them because you have the total control of your environment, are here, or better to say, are designed to support you in the organization of the environment. Now, we have seen how to specify the test cases and how to keep them organized. We should now talk about execution, but when we talk about execution, we need to include into the conversation the planning aspect. In fact, in Xray, you will be able to create test plan. That is a special Jira issue. The test plan has been designed with the purpose to provide a better visibility and management over your test. A test plan will include a table with all the test cases that you have added and the respective test executions result. So also in this case, you don't have to see a test plan as a mandatory element. You are not forced to create them. You can also work with ad hoc executions. Why should I use test plan? What is the purpose? Well, there are different purposes, but one of the use cases that you may want to cover using a test plan is the regression. So let's assume that you want to execute a group of test cases multiple times and keep track on the results. So let's assume that I have 4 test cases. I execute them in bulk. 3 of them are going to be passed and 1 failed. So the second execution, I just want to execute the failed one because I want to fix it and then to retest it. So this element, the test plan, is the element that can support you in this use case. How it looks like is a special Jira issue. That means that has all the characteristics as a Jira issue. But this time you will have a new section called test. And in this section, you have to expect, as I was saying in the definition, the table with the test cases included and the respective executions results. And here on the top, the overall execution status. So already from here, I can tell you what's going on. And I can see that I have a test case that has been executed and passed, one that has been executed and failed, one actually still been executing, and one hasn't been executed yet. So this is the test plan and can be used for the regression or execution of multiple test cases at once. Now, let's talk about executions. And as I was saying in the beginning, there is a difference between manual execution and automation. The manual test cases can be executed directly within your Xray environment, so Jira plus Xray environment. So what you have to expect is to have access to what we call the test execution details view. In this section that is displayed here on the left side, you will have access to the steps, to the manual step that you have configured within your test case. And you can work on each of them. You can label each of them with a specific status. In this case, I have 3 steps. The first 2, no problem. Everything was all right. So passed. But while I was performing the 3rd step execution, something went wrong. So I label it in red. That means failed. What I can do here to be even more precise in my daily activity, I can add, and this is something that you can do for every single step, I can add an evidence file. An evidence file such as a screenshot of the portion of code that is not performing as expected, but could be also a text file, a JSON file. There is no limitation on the format. Just be aware on the maximum size. I can add a comment. I can type a comment for myself or for a team member I'm working with. And last but not least, defects. Yes, Jira defects. So basically, you will be able to add a defect that was previously generated somewhere else within your environment, or you can generate a new one from scratch. So what you will do, and this is of course not mandatory, but is an example, you will be able to create a defect that is a Jira issue, that is a bug typology. Include into this, let's say, element, the execution information, potentially add attachments, and what you will have is this bug that is automatically linked to this execution and is also automatically linked to the test case that generated the execution. This is a basic but also clear example on how Jira and Xray are integrated, because they are working together to provide you all the elements that you will need to work with the task case management world. The story is going to be a bit different when we talk about automation. Automation that can be either BDD or the generic typology. And it's going to be different because you have to rely on the support of an external framework or multiple frameworks. There's no limitation. Let's talk about BDD. What is the workflow? You have, by mandatory requirement, to already have created or imported the task case BDD typology within your environment. And once you will start the execution on the framework side, what is going to happen is that Xray will export the feature file for the task case that you want to execute or for the group of task cases that you want to execute. The execution will be performed on the framework side, and then Xray will import the result. How? By generating for us an element that is a test execution issue that will contain the information of the execution and the status. The generic typology, it's going to work in a similar way. The main difference is that you don't have to create or import a task case within Xray before being able to execute it. You can, for instance, have it stored on an external repository, then launch the execution on the framework, and from the framework import for the first time the results. What you can see right now here on my screen is an example of execution result of an automated task case generic typology. What I did is I launched from the framework Jenkins generic typology task case. In the execution process, a tool such as Selenium was involved. So basically in Xray, I found the first steps of the execution, the third one that was failed. Thanks to Selenium, I was able to automatically capture the screenshot, and thanks to Xray, I was able to store it as an evidence file. So these are the three different workflows that we should expect when we work with Xray. Starting from the manual one, that is straightforward, directly within Xray. And then BDD and generic, that are automated family, let's say, that will require an external framework. But at the end, you will always have the details in the test execution details view. Because it's not enough to know that an execution has failed. We need to understand why it has failed. Last but not least, reportings. That is another key aspect of our solution. We have three macro categories of reportings, starting from the buildings one, such as coverage or traceability, that are these tools that provide information on of our environment. User-defined reports, extremely, extremely powerful and flexible. You will start from a template. You can customize this template. You can use one of the one that we do provide, or you can import your own. You will be able to generate the report starting from this template and also to export in different formats. So you can either share with the management or you can keep as a documentation. Last but not least, the dashboards. Dashboards that are based on gadgets. You will be able to add gadget that has been specifically defined for some of the aspect of Xray. But in case it's not enough, you will be also able to add your own custom gadgets. So it's extremely flexible, and you will have, most of all, the control of it. Last but not least, what I was talking about right now is the Xray standard solution. Last year, we released the enterprise solution. What's the enterprise solution? First of all, it's not a different tool. It's just an add-on. It's an add-on that will enable some advanced features that are displayed here on my screen. To mention some of them, cross-project reports, in order to generate and create reports that contains information coming from different projects. Test case designer that eliminates the gap in the testing coverage is a tool that is based on a machine learning engine. Test case versioning, use case could be, I have a test case and I need to have a version that is manual and a version that is automated. I can do that with this advanced feature. So these are the advanced features that enterprise solution will provide you. That's Xray. Thank you.